Hey everybody, it's Bust, continuing our discussion of the Legends of Runeterra 2024 Standard Format Rotation Preview, longest title 2024 as well. And so we talked about the Runeterran champions and Bandle City in the previous video. In today's video, we're going to cover off on Bilgewater and Demacia. But first and foremost, I do want to point out the Rotation 2024 article if you haven't caught it yet. Riot I Am Walrus goes through, talks about some of the main points as to why a lot of cards were rotated and how these changes are coming in. The linear changes to where they're taking out things like Lurk and taking out Darkness. The champions that just need improvement, say like Lucian and Tryndamere. The champions that always come together in pairs, say like Misfortune and Quinn within the Scouts deck. And then what they're calling the weird champs, the kind of oddballs out there that are a singular strategy all on their own, which was very much in part of the camp of the cultist themes with Varus and Kayn, and then Aatrox coming in as well. But nonetheless, the thing that has really felt like the most important thing for me in terms of rotation is coming out and defining the strengths of a particular faction. And so as we were talking about Bandle City yesterday, their strengths aren't really projected, if you ask me. They have some card generation, right? There's a lot of manifest mechanic within the set. You have your Conchologist generating spells. You have your Bandle City Mayor generating multi-factions. You have things like the Bandle Tree generating multi-faction units. And so that's kind of a core component to Bandle City. They have some kind of one damage ping themes between stuff like Pokestick and Pytos and stuff. But outside of that, what is Bandle City actually good at? And what it looks like they're supposed to be good at in the upcoming year is Yordles, which was very strange to me since being Yordles isn't really a faction identity, right? You don't say, hey, what are we good at? How are we good at combat? Yordles. How do we deal damage? Yordles, right? That just doesn't make sense thematically to just say. And so it was very odd to me. And that ties into Bilgewater because Bilgewater is even worse. Bilgewater has historically had these really kind of siloed off, super cohesive within itself type of synergies that just don't work anywhere else. And so there's the Lurk mechanic here. We know that's gone. That's fine. You have some of the one drops matter mechanic, right? You can see the Buru leader that's still within here. That never really got fleshed out. You can see things like tentacles and Alawi. What tentacle stuff do you have outside of Alawi? Absolutely none. And so to me, they've always really struggled to figure out what they're wanting to do. And so as far as the champion removal here, this all seems fine to me. Fizz, we talked about yesterday, just take him out of the game. That's completely fine. Pyke being a piece of the Lurk mechanic, that's completely fine. And that just leaves Nami at home, which has been kind of a failed mechanic across the world of Bilgewater, to where Attune to me isn't really a build around kind of thing. It's a supportive type of ability. You never say, ooh, I'm going to build an Attune deck today, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of a keyworded mechanic building out and other things, and this ability just kind of fell flat across the faction. Now, whether or not that's because Attune was bad, which I disagree with. I think Attune was very powerful on things like Shell Shocker and Grumble Slug, but the problem with Bilgewater outside of that is the cards are all just bullshit and garbage, and you've never been able to assemble a real spell-heavy deck that wasn't just completely degenerate. And so the only things that we've seen from Nami and from the Attune mechanic would be degenerate decks involving big OTKs with elusives, be it powered by Nami or powered by Fleet Admiral Shelley. And so it's I'm kind of up in the air as to how to even feel about Bilgewater. It's what do you do to fix this faction to where it's able to say, okay, here's what we can do? And, I don't feel like they've ever really had that since the Pirates mechanics were running around with Gangplank, who's coming back, and Misfortune, who's still here. But you can kind of say, oh, we have, guns and stuff. We do ranged damage that's not very consistent. And so you have cards like Make It Rain and Parlay that deal, small chip damage, but may not always do what you want, right? So you play your Make It Rain, it may not hit the unit you want it to hit. You play your Parlay, it may not kill the opposing unit and get that damage into the opposing face. And so it's stuff that kind of works when it works, it's good. When it doesn't work, it's kind of bad. It has a big RNG element to it. But outside of a few specific cases, we haven't seen too much of that actually running around. And so, like, as I look at this rotational stuff that's coming out, to me it's like, what is actually happening here? What is actually coming away? It's like we have a tune going, that's one mechanic. We have a deep card going, that's one mechanic. We have a one drops matter card going, that's one mechanic. We have Fizz's rally spell, we'll call that one mechanic. We have another deep card, which is tied to Nautilus. Nautilus not going, Riptide is. Okay, whatever. We have a cultist, that's mechanic number 5, kind of ties into the one drops matter. Then we have Eye of Nagakaboros. This is ability number 6. And so, as Riot was talking about, we're pulling these linear mechanics out. It's tough for me to really get a good sense if they're doing that with Bilgewater, in the sense that, are they actually removing mechanics beyond lurk? Are they diluting what's there? Or is it just that the cards are all so bad that it's really tough to piece these things coming together, right? And so it's tough. I really don't know how to make Bilgewater a faction that isn't just Misfortune. Without a lot of work going into it. Now, where I think it's safe to say that Bilgewater was starting to garner some identity and they were starting to get some things happening was with the release of the Samira set and having a lot of the plunder cards come out and be active and interesting. Like, that to me is the place where Bilgewater needs to be going, right? You have this set of abilities. It fits in that same kind of space as to where it needs some things to go right for it to really come in and pop off. If your things aren't going right, it's kind of weak. But when you hit your warning shot to activate your plunder and your plunders all pop off for the turn, that's a very big thing to build towards. And so, at least to me, that's the kind of thing you still see working within this. We've only cut one reasonable plunder card down here in Powder Pandemonium. Maybe that at least gives Bilgewater something to build around. But in terms of the cards coming back in, I've got it loaded up on another screen so it doesn't blind you this time. But they don't really get a ton added back in that ties into these thoughts and ideals, if you ask me. So Gangplank coming back is nice from a power level perspective, because if we're going to be real, what does Bilgewater have going for it? It's Gangplank and it's Misfortune. Other than that, everything within the faction is just garbage. And so, at least the big guys coming back, maybe that's a thing. But man, I feel like I don't remember the rotation from last year and everything that hit with Bilgewater. It didn't do anything to fix the problems with the faction, and I think it just doesn't do anything now. Now, do I feel like that's a problem with rotation? Not really. It's just, to me, the cards are all so bad from a competitive constructed standpoint that it's just you can't do enough about it, right? If you take the collective grouping of Bilgewater cards, you can probably get together the Misfortune stuff and that piratey stuff from Gangplank, and that's really just it. And so there's just been so many flat failures of mechanics out of this faction that I really don't know what the answer is in terms of fixing it. And so up next we have Demacia, and this is a very interesting one to me. Demacia has a very soft spot in my heart. If I had to pick my favorite faction within the game, it's either got to be Demacia or it's got to be Noxus, and I'm pretty certain that it's just Demacia. And so the things that we're seeing within Demacia still strike me as odd, right? Again, whatever I want to see what's happening within the rotation, I want it to really kind of like hammer home and fix the problems in terms of faction identity and what we're getting out of the factions. And I feel like with Demacia, it was hit very well, right? I feel like they were really hammering home what the faction was good at. And so they're good at combat, right? You have units battling the other units. You get combat tricks to help win them. You have things like the tough mechanic that can then help you survive those combats, kind of adjacent to being good at combat. How do we have removal spells? We have things like strikes. And so you would get a physical strike like Fish Fight, or you would get a physical or a strike like Concerted Strike, or you would have the kind of punch back and forth style things like Single Combat. That all makes a lot of sense within there. They don't do a lot with spells, and they actively hamper your opponent's ability to play spells, be that things like Mage Seeker Jr. or Petricite Pillar or Stony Suppressor. You have a lot of ways to kind of come in and shut down your opponent's spells and say, okay, we're doing combat today. And so it's been a real, like, why is this stuff happening? Like, all of the things that I'm seeing happen within Demacia are just completely strange to me. And so we see Quinn. I get pulling Quinn. Quinn is a two-parter. She's part of that duos strategy that they're talking about, to where Quinn is typically just paired with Misfortune, although we did see a bit of Quinn usage with the likes of Gwen later on, and it looks like they're ripping out the scout mechanic, which was probably overtuned, and it's probably due just to go away, right? We see the Island Navigator going out of Bilgewater, Quinn is going, things like Ranger Knight Defector as a scout unit are going, Green Fang Warden is gone. I don't know if we've hit every scout card in here, but to a large degree, the cheap and efficient scout cards are being removed from the game. And so that's fine if we're wanting to kind of tie that into the linear strategy. We're wanting to tie that into the buddy system, whatever. One of the things that was really like astronomically strange to me was the weak champions section, right? If you come down to where you're given the what doesn't kill you makes you stronger needs improvements champions, Jarvan, and that's one that really kind of caught me off guard. It was like, to me, Jarvan is like the epitome of what Demacia is good at. He's got barriers, he's got combat effectiveness, he has a challenger ability, and he's all around just a fantastically strong champion. Like, I don't know how many of you played the likes of Formidable's decks over the course of the past few seasons, but like the Jarvan Formidable's decks were particularly strong, and then he was even a fantastic champion out in the space of Eternal, and so saying he's just not good enough was very weird to me. In terms of these things, though, it's like the stuff that really hammers home what Demacia is able to do, we're starting to see just kind of go away, right? We're seeing Fish Fight go, we're seeing Cataclysm go as these strike kind of abilities. We're seeing the Mage Seeker thing go away. Now, Mage Seeker Jr. is a little different. I know no one caught the Invitational, and I don't know how this happened. Like, my understanding of the Invitational was that like Majin Bay and Sunny were a team, and Majin Bay and Sunny won the Invitational, but Boulevard and somebody else won some kind of side contest to where Boulevard got to rotate a card out, the other person got to rotate a card in, and the card Boulevard decided to rotate out was Mage Seeker Jr., which it's fine. I get how this is a thing and how it's happened, but this is like a huge hamperance to what like Demacia is thematically trying to do, right? If we are saying Demacia's Mage Seekers are good at counterspelling stuff, why are we taking this stuff out of standard? And to say, okay, well, you know, Boulevard picked it because the Morgana deck was annoying as shit, fine, but like seeing things like Petricite Pillar go, like really makes me like curious about how these decisions are coming forth, right? We're seeing the strikes go, we're seeing the Mage Seekers go, and we're seeing the rallies go. And what is like meant to come in and replace that? And so that's like very strange to me, right? In terms of fixing the faction identity, some of this stuff makes sense, right? If you want to cut out the Dead Allies Matter themes, fine. So we see Lucian goes, Senna goes, Remembrance goes, For the Fallen goes. This wasn't a really fleshed out type of mechanic. That can go, that's fine. Towering Stonehorn is just a generic do nothing kind of card. He does have some spell slingery shit attached to him because he doesn't take damage from spells, but he's not super thematic. And so like seeing cards like that go, it's completely fine. Seeing things like Petricite Broadwing go, that has been like a consistent thorn in the side of every meta since it's been encompassed, fine. But it's really strange seeing some of this stuff go, especially as we come over and look at the cards that are rotating in. We're starting to see the elites come in, and so it's just like, okay, so we're pushing away from linear strategies. We don't want these linear strategies that have been around since the dawn of the game to be around, so what are we doing? We're bringing back elites. Like, that's just fucking strange to me. Like, why? Why? If the thing you are trying to get away from is linear strategies, the most forefront linear strategy that has been in the game since the dawn of its inception back in the COVID times has been elites, and this is what we're doing. We're cutting out the things that really hammer home what Demacia is good at, and we're replacing it with just generic elite stuff. Like it blows my mind that this is like what the decision making process has been in terms of pushing forward with Demacia. Otherwise, you see things like Golden Aegeus come in. That's another real weird pain point for me. If you're wanting to see what's happening within this rotation thing, it is kind of nice to have it come back as a rally, but it also comes back in the same times as Taric, and so like you're just bringing back one of the most like degenerate decks of all time in the sense of taking a very small format with low interactivity and adding in one of the most powerful combos of all time. If you're not familiar with what you can do, you play Golden Aegeus on an ally, that counts as a spell, so you play your Golden Aegeus on Taric, it gives you a rally, you get to attack again, then the Golden Aegeus copies itself from Taric onto the other unit, giving you another rally, letting you attack 3 times within the same turn. And so like, it's nice that you do see, some of the rally stuff sticking around with Demacia, but at the main point, it's just been gutted, right? Relentless Pursuit's gone, Champion Strength's gone. Yeah, Champion Strength deserves to go, but also seeing things like Cataclysm go away, with Cataclysm tying in with Scouts as another kind of pseudo rally. It's just, to me, you've taken what like really makes Demacia interesting and replaced it with elites, and so. I don't know. This is like a very strange video for me to make in the sense of like we're comparing Bilgewater and Demacia at the same time, with Bilgewater being arguably the worst faction in the game for the life cycle of the entirety of the game, to where Demacia's been at worst mid, and then at times just the best faction within the game, and a lot of these Demacian cards are just kind of overtuned on their own, and so it's just tough for me to say like, okay, well, Bilgewater is just a completely fucked faction, and you can't fuck it up any more than it's already been fucked, but like, why take something that's actually been done right and been done well, and now like take that away from it? And so I don't know. And so from like just a power level, pure gameplay perspective, I'm sure a lot of this stuff is fine. And a lot of Demacia did need to just be dialed back in terms of raw power level. But the way that they've gone about this is just completely baffling to me in terms of rhyme or reason with these things coming in and going. And so it's strange. I don't know. I'm very interested to see how Demacia plays out in the future. I'm really curious if in the upcoming days, if Demacia does anything that is not either A, Elites, or B, Morgana. And now we do know with the upcoming set, the final set that's apparently going to be released, it's not really clear what's going to happen after this next set, as it is going to be very Demacia focused. It's got Lux in it with a bunch of Demacia other things, and so maybe that's the direction things will be moving forward, and it'll be much more clear in the upcoming days. But if you take a look at what Lux does, she's just another stat factory for the attacky units. And so what it seems like Demacia is going to be is Vanguard Bannerman. And I know Vanguard Bannerman isn't around anymore, but it seems like, the card itself, Vanguard Bannerman, is you put units on the board, you play a card that makes those units big, and you attack with those units. That's what Elites has done forever. That's what Lux is about to do in the upcoming set, and that seems to be what we want Demacia to do in the future, just be a big pile of stats. And so I don't know, this is rough for me. I don't know if it's just because I love the faction so much, and I've loved so much of the gameplay that comes out of Jarvan and Vayne and Cataclysm and all of the rallies and everything, or if it's just I'm reading too deep into it because my love was so deep for these cards. But it feels like they're just out here getting savaged, and it's a real a bummer to me. And so it's tough, man. We'll see how it goes. We'll be out here in a week just putting the Demacia decks forth and everything, but it's so brutal to see such rich character taken away and replaced with +1/+1 stats. But nonetheless, agree or disagree, I'd love to hear it. Please tell me more, because that is going to do it for us today. And so I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way. You had a good time watching. This is Busted Me. Thank you for being here.